On this week's edition of the Loud Nerd in the Basement podcast, I go over some news coming out of Cinemacon related to Spider-Man. We get trailers for Punisher, Godzilla, and Hunger Games that I'll go over. More drama coming from the WB and Paramount merger, as well as major casting news for Man of Tomorrow and Hunt for Gollum. All this and a ton more on the Loud Nerd in the Basement podcast. Welcome back to another Friday News Roundup edition of the Loud Nerd in the Basement podcast. As always, I am your host, Adam Zolnai. Thank you so much for listening, whether it's right when this comes out or after the fact. I really appreciate it. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback about this podcast, so I'm glad that people are enjoying it. I enjoy doing it, so it's really just working out well for everyone. I'm glad you're not tired of my voice yet, so that's good. As always, before we get started, I want to give a few updates. I'm just going to make you have flashbacks of school where we have morning announcements before we get going. First of all, I know I said that I would have a transcript out for every episode that I released in case you wanted to read it instead of listening to my wonderful voice. For further research, I found out that that only works for the web version of Substack. For some reason, the app does not show the transcript. It's only on the website version. Now, you can still access that on mobile. Just got to open Substack on your mobile web browser rather than through the app. I don't know why Substack didn't do that for the app, but I don't make the rules. But I just wanted to let people know in case you were confused, because I did get a couple of questions about that, so wanted to clear that up for you. Also, exciting news, I am offering now a paid subscription tier for my Substack, which includes the podcast, and it actually will affect the podcast more than my actual writing a little bit. So, and again, this is totally optional. I want you to know out of the gate, podcasts on Fridays and the articles on Wednesdays will still be free. I'm not going to paywall any of those. Those are still going to be free for anyone who wants to read them. I know a lot of people get enjoyment out of them, so I don't want to take that away from anyone. The paid tier is just adding extra little things for people who want it. It's $6 a month or $50 a year, excuse me. And what you will get is two things. One, you'll be able to submit questions that I can answer on the podcast. So if you want to hear me talk about a certain movie or TV show or expand my thoughts on something that I may have missed, you can submit a comment that way. Also, I will be doing spoiler casts for major movies. So like next month we have Mandalorian and Grogu coming out. So what I would do is have a written non-spoiler review come out the Wednesday after the movie premieres, because I'm not cool enough to see it early. Unfortunately, Disney has not found out how amazing I am yet, so I do not get a special invite to any premieres. So you would get the spoiler-free review, and then the Monday after that, I would release a spoiler cast exclusively just for people who are on the paid subscription. So you can hear my full spoilerific thoughts on the movie. It'd be an audio form just so that way I don't have to constrain myself to a word count. You can just listen to me talk about the movie in full spoiler detail. And this will be exciting, I think, especially as we get into the summer blockbuster season with movies like Supergirl, Disclosure Day, Spider-Man obviously is a big one, and then in December with Avengers and Dune Part 3. I think this will be fun for everyone. I will enjoy doing it. Again, totally optional, but just something that I can help kind of grow the channel, or this channel, thinking YouTube terms, Substack, and be able to provide better quality for you. And also, I do want to eventually start making a living off of this. So if you want to support that, great. Just go on Substack, and I believe you can upgrade your subscription that way. If you don't, that's fine. I'm still glad you're here. I'll still be putting out content for you to enjoy. I don't want you to feel left out at all. But without further ado, let's get into the news. All right, so it's Cinemacon week this week, and for those of you who don't know, it's basically a trade show for movie studios. It's where all the movie studios get together, all their reps, all the big wigs mingle around and basically show off what they're doing. Usually through that we get some trailers, some announcements of when projects are coming out or casting news. So that's if you've seen a lot of stuff uh, revealed this week, that's why. Tonight, as I'm recording this now, it's a Thursday. Tonight is when Disney will be releasing or having their panel, excuse me, which means we probably will get an Avengers Doomsday teaser. That's what the scuttlebutt is anyway. Obviously, this podcast will be out and recorded before I recorded this before it comes out, so I'll react to that trailer next week if it gets released. If not, we'll just wait until Disney decides to drop that, which I imagine will be, if not this month, it'll definitely be next month, I think, in front of Mandalorian and Grogu. I could definitely see them putting that a trailer in front of that to kind of help both boost interest in Mandalorian and Grogu, as well as um, get people starting to get excited for Avengers Doomsday, especially since we've gotten like a Dune Part 3 trailer, and there are rumors swirling around that they may be moving their release date up a bit. So that would be a time to announce that as well. So if there is a trailer, you'll hear my thoughts about it next week. If not, I will react to it at the same time everyone else does, I guess. So, but we did get some news from Sony, of all people. We got some Spider-Man news. First, we got a couple of new posters for Spider-Man Brand New Day. One of them, and a lot of people made this comparison, I totally agree, really reminiscent of the Raimi Spider-Man 2 posters where you have Spider-Man's face looking out at the viewer, and in the eye lens is the reflection. In Spider-Man's suitcase, it was Dr. Octopus, but in this case, you see Zendaya's MJ, which I thought brilliant move, really really cool way to do that. Harken back to something while also making it relevant to the current franchise. I really like that. There's also another cool one of Spider-Man getting ready to fight a bunch of hand ninjas, which I'm excited that they're really leaning into the hand ninja thing. I wonder how big of a part they are in this movie. Again, they're usually a Daredevil villain, so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, depending on how Season 2 ends, we get a Daredevil cameo in that where Daredevil and Spider-Man are fighting. A lot of people have pointed out that last shot in the trailer, Spider-Man fighting in the air with the ninjas. There's a lot of room for some guys to have been CGI'd out, so there might be a Daredevil in there that they just airbrushed out of the way for the trailer. So I'm hoping. But those posters were cool. We also got some details and images from Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. There was some footage shown, but of course Sony doesn't want to show that to us. But we got some cool images of a young Miles' Uncle Aaron and his dad. We got a poster with Spider-Punk that says "Save Your Dad," as well as a image of Spider-Man 2099 fighting Miles again. And we got official plot synopsis, which I think is cool. It says, hunted by Miguel O'Hara's Spider Society and betrayed by his friends, Miles finds himself in the darkest corner of the Spider-Verse in search of a way home. Knowing that his family has not only been fractured, but endangered by his calling, it's a race against the clock for Miles to travel across the wildest reaches of time and space to fight for and reunite everything he holds most dear. Now, this is coming out next year on June 18th. I'm excited for it. It sounds like it's going to be just as good as the first two. I have no doubt that it's going to be good. I'm glad that it's finally coming out, especially after all the delays. I can't wait, and I'm really interested especially to see what they do with Spider-Man 2099, because there's a lot of rumors about how he might be a secret variant that we don't know about. He might not be the real Miguel O'Hara, that he's maybe another multiverse doppelganger. I'm really interested to see how they wrap this all up, because they have confirmed this is the last one, which makes sense. These movies take a long time to make, as evidenced by how long it's taken for this one to come out. So I don't blame them not wanting to do any more. And honestly, I'd rather have them go out on a bang than keep prolonging something to where it just becomes like Minions or Despicable Me, where it's like, oh yay, another one, diminishing returns. So I'm happy that this is coming out. I'm excited. Everything looks good. I can't wait for the first teaser. My guess is we get our first look at it in November, December. Probably put it up out around Doomsday and Dune Part 3, just to kind of start seeding excitement for that. But moving on, as I said before, we got some trailers. First up, we got a little teaser for Godzilla Minus Zero, which is the sequel to Godzilla Minus One. I really enjoyed that movie. I know that there's a little bit of a fan divide between the people who like the Shin, or for those of you who don't know, Shin is the Japanese version of Godzilla versus the more American and blockbustery, huge, over-the-top action and CGI Monster Fest. There's divide on which one's better. I enjoy both. I can appreciate both, where one's just a really dumb, turn your brain off and watch monsters punch each other and laser each other for an hour and a half. And then the Shin Godzilla, which was more thoughtful and more character driven. I really enjoyed Godzilla Minus One. I highly recommend it, especially if you're a history person. It's really cool seeing the aftermath of World War II depicted from the Japanese perspective. You don't see that a lot, so to kind of have that perspective given was really unique. And then adding Godzilla as a metaphor for the atomic bomb once again, but in a new, interesting way. I really enjoyed that, and this teaser looked great. Again, it was only like 30 seconds of footage, but it did imply that Godzilla will be making his way to New York City, because at the end of the teaser you see him next to the Statue of Liberty, so that'll be interesting to see, again, especially taken from a Japanese perspective rather than a American perspective, just to see what that culture interprets, 40s or 50s America. Really, I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. Another teaser we got is Punisher One Last Kill. Finally got a little teaser for that. Looks great. Looks like Punisher. Again, I think it's going to tie into whatever the end of Daredevil Born Again Season 2 is, as well as also being a primer for Spider-Man Brand New Day, how Frank ends up in that, or what state of mind he is in that. The trailer was not too specific on plot details, but it very much emphasizes that Frank Castle's either losing his mind or having second thoughts about being the Punisher, almost like he's having withdrawals and trying to, cure an addiction sort of thing. You see him in a dark room with ghosts from his past kind of haunting him. It was really cool to see some characters from his show brought back. I kind of like the idea of him seeing the crooked cops kind of using his logo and his symbol and twisting it and perverting it in such a way that he's like, oh man, if this is almost kind of coming face to face with the consequences of his actions. I really like that idea of him having to kind of sit on that and be like, well, if I'm going to be the Punisher still, how do I make myself not appeal to these guys? Like, how do I get my moxie back, sort of thing. I'm excited for that. And again, I'm excited for the implications of what it could mean for Brand New Day, because they've really promoted him in that trailer. I mean, I know it was only the beginning, but I'd have to think he's going to be in more than just like an opening chase sequence if they're going to include the Punisher. So I'm excited. I do think we'll get some hints, again, if nothing else, of some of the gangs and everything that are going to be involved in Brand New Day. I can't wait. It comes out, again, May 12th, the week after Born Again Season 2 finishes up, so I'm ready. Bring it on. But the last teaser that I want to talk about today was the Hunger Games Rise of the Reaping trailer. Basically, this is another prequel to the Hunger Games series that focuses on a young version of Hamish. I believe is his name. I'm sorry. Sorry, it's Sunrise on the Reaping. I can't read. And basically is about Hamish Abernathy, a young version of him when he went through the Hunger Games. We got young versions of Snow, of Plutarch, like everybody. And everyone looks like younger versions of themselves, especially Aunt Ellie Fanning. She's perfect to replace Elizabeth Banks. I overall, it looks fine. For me, my thing is I enjoyed the Hunger Games books. The movies were okay. I felt they might have done better as a series on like HBO or something, so you could kind of make them a little bit more violent and really delve into more of the political side of things. Like they do that a bit in Catching Fire, but then I feel it kind of starts to get lost a little bit, especially in the first one. I it looks fine. I don't really care for it because again, I know how this story ends. I know what happens to Hamish. I don't need to see it, but if you're excited for it, I'm happy for you. And man, I wish I could get the deal that Susan Collins has where I can just announce a book and the movie's already in development for it as well. That'd be nice. So, if anyone knows her agent, please direct them to me because I'd love to have that kind of deal. But overall, it looks good. The visuals look great, and again, the costumes look great. The casting's great. I have no issues with that. For me, it's just I've seen the story, and it hints at like rebellion and stuff. I know how this ends. I know that they're not going to win, and that we're going to need it. It could become a Rogue One situation where my expectations are low, and I'm like, I don't need to see this, and then it comes out, and it's like, whoa, this looks amazing. This adds so much to the backstory of Hamish and really enhances those earlier movies. But for me right now, I'm just like, it is what it is. I'm interested to see how well it does because the other Hunger Games prequel, Songbirds and Snakes, did okay. Granted, I believe it was still kind of around the end of that time with COVID where people weren't fully going back to the movies yet. So maybe this will do a little bit better now that we're kind of fully back into people going to the movies and enjoying them again, and at least to some a much better extent than we were a few years ago. So I'm interested to see how this one turns out. Again, the cast looks great, so if they can nail the script, I think it'll do decently well. Hunger Games fans seem really excited for it. I'm happy for them. But moving on to something that's not so happy, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. This isn't really movie news, but I wanted to talk about it because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and if you're a fan of the old EU like me, and I have nothing against the new Disney canon, I've enjoyed a lot of their comics and novels, so I'm not one of those people where I'm just banging the table and be like, the old EU is better. Okay, there's some great stuff in the old EU, but there's also some stuff that we want to forget. Even George Lucas hopes that we forget. So it had its good and bad stuff, just like the new canon does. But one of the big things that people have enjoyed is them bringing back EU characters into the new canon. One of the big ones is obviously Admiral Thrawn from the Heir of the Empire trilogy, written by Timothy Zahn. Highly recommend those books. They hold up today, even though they were written in the 80s. Really well done. And it's kind of cool to see what it was like when there was only 3 Star Wars movies and you had someone expanding on that for the first time when there really was no word for Sith, or they didn't really know what the Clone Wars were. And so that was up to interpretation. Just seeing what people thought that was, especially obviously Timothy Zahn who wrote it, what that was, what they thought that was, and what that looked like versus what we ended up getting with the prequels. Really interesting, and I enjoy it. But one of the major characters that came from that series that people have loved for years is Mara Jade. For those of you who don't know who Mara Jade is, she's from the Heir of the Empire trilogy. She was raised to be almost like she was an assassin for Emperor Palpatine, but she was trained in the ways of the Force and with a lightsaber. And the whole idea is you find out that she's retconned to have been at Jabba's palace in Episode 6 with the task of killing Luke Skywalker. And the last order she gets from the Emperor before he explodes is kill Luke Skywalker. And so the whole idea is that she's trying to survive basically with a smuggling gang and bumps into Luke Skywalker during her adventures in the book series and is haunted by this idea of like, this is the man who killed my master, like he must be so evil, and then constantly being shown that she's wrong and struggling with the fact that she's like, I'm supposed to kill this guy, I'm not supposed to like him, but gosh dang it, he's a he seems like a good person, and by the end of it, she makes the choice not to kill Luke. And in a fun little twist later on, she and Luke end up getting married, which has been reported that George Lucas didn't like that because he didn't think that Jedi were supposed to get married, which we see that struggle really played out in the prequels. I personally really like that decision. I like the idea of Luke being like, no, I'm going to get married. I'm going to have a beautiful wife who can also do the same stuff I do. Like, that'll be awesome. She was a great character. Really, really enjoyed her. And I know a lot of people have been wondering if she would ever be brought back into the new canon like Thrawn. Well, it was reported this week that at MegaCon, author Claudia Gray, who's done some great books, highly recommend them, revealed that she asked Lucasfilm about using Mara Jade in one of her stories and was only being told no. Timothy Zahn, who created the character, was also told a few times by Lucasfilm no. And apparently they have been adamant about not having her come back. I I could see both ways. I think it'd be fun to bring her back, but because we already know the ending of Luke's story, unless they can really kind of throw in a major retcon of being like, hey, one of the other reasons he's sad is because Mara Jade passed away. And that's why he was in the mindset he was in The Last Jedi. Which I wouldn't mind. I think it would kind of help retroactively a little bit, make that a bit better. I'm not the biggest fan of The Last Jedi. I respect what it was trying to do. I didn't agree with some of the character choices, especially with Luke, or some of the writing, but I'm not going to be one of those people that makes hating it my whole identity. I have a life. But I can also see how hard it would be to bring her in, and if you bring her in and don't make her like connected to Luke Skywalker the way that she is in the original continuity, I can understand why it would be just like, no, that's too much of a hassle and too much of a strain to do something like that. So I understand why they wouldn't want to add her in. I hope to see her one day. Maybe they could do something where they bring her in. She could be in the newer movies set after Rise of Skywalker. Like, make it so she was in, like, Carbonite or whatever to be thawed out whenever the Emperor passed away, whenever she was needed. Like, almost make her like the Winter Soldier of Star Wars. That'd be kind of fun. And then you could have, like, Rey fight her. And then she could kind of be a friend to Rey and a mentor to Rey if they ever make that movie or continue on with a sequel trilogy, another sequel trilogy, I should say. But we'll see. It's a little disappointing, but I can understand Lucasfilm's perspective of just that's a huge can of worms you're opening up by bringing her in. Because Admiral Thrawn, you can kind of slip in as we've seen with Rebels and to a lesser extent Ahsoka. He can fit kind of wherever you need him in the timeline. As long as the Empire's there, you can kind of throw him in wherever. But Mara Jade, there's just a lot more baggage with that character, so I understand why they don't want to bring her in. But speaking of baggage, how's that for a segue? There's been a lot of hubbub made about the Warner Brothers Paramount merger. If you've been following my Substack since day one, you know I've been reporting on this. I wouldn't say I'm invested, but I do find it just really interesting because it is such a big deal for the movie industry. I've always been, I can't say pro because again, you're rooting between two multi-trillion dollar companies in Netflix and Paramount. I've always been on the side that I think Paramount was the better buy than Netflix, just because I think Netflix would have milked franchises to death on their streaming app rather than actually do movie releases. I know they said they did, but to insert the quote from Anchorman, I don't believe you. I don't. Hard to believe that a CEO of a trillion-dollar company might not be trustworthy, but I just don't believe them when they say that they would keep to a good release schedule. But apparently some major players in Hollywood are not happy about the deal and sent an open letter opposing Paramount's merger, calling it that, and I quote, a transaction that will threaten the sustainability of the entire creative community. We are deeply concerned by indications of support for this merger that prioritize the interests of a small group of powerful stakeholders over the broader public good. The integrity, independence, and diversity of our industry would be grievously compromised. I understand where they're coming from. It seems to be that a lot of the concern is just the monopoly that would place, because they really emphasize that there would only be four major movie studios at this point. Obviously, there's smaller ones like Angel or A24, but in terms of the big guns, it would really be only four studios left, which again, I don't think is good, and I could see this deal not passing because of that, if we still have antitrust laws that work, but I won't get into that. But Paramount actually did respond to the open letter, and again, take it for what you will, because this is a billion-dollar company saying something, so who knows how truthful it actually is. But they said, quote, "This transaction uniquely brings together complementary strengths to create a company that can greenlight more projects, back bold ideas, support talent across multiple stages of their careers, and bring stories to audiences at a truly global scale, while strengthening competition by ensuring multiple scaled players are investing in creative talent." They also said that they're committed to their promise of releasing 30 plus films a year, which, dear Lord, that's a lot. I don't know what to believe. I understand the concerns of the Hollywood people, but again, I'd much rather have Paramount over Netflix, just because I think Paramount at least knows the movie business better than Netflix and has more respect for the movie business more than Netflix. Netflix just seems to care what drives people to our streaming platform, which makes sense. That's where their bread and butter is. I don't want, properties like Superman, Batman, Dune, or Harry Potter, although Harry Potter's already there, and Lord of the Rings, which is being milked already. Again, there's no winning here. This is just like most things in the real world. Unfortunately, this is the lesser of two evils. Where at least, okay, I know with Paramount, there's a good chance I'm going to get a Superman movie in theaters or a Batman movie in theaters, and it's not going to be for 2 weeks before it's just relegated to a streaming app that I have to pay for. And there's a good chance that I can actually buy a Blu-ray at the end of the day when it's all said and done. So I'll take that, but again, there's no winning here. I do think in the end of the day, this probably will go through no matter how much kicking and screaming there is from the Hollywood community, but as far as how it plays out, I hope that Paramount at least releases films and they don't immediately start shutting things down. Like, I think the DC universe is safe. I think that's just too big of an IP. I mean, Batman alone brings in a bunch of money, so there's no way that they're going to be like, yeah, forget about it. We're just going to relegate that to Paramount Plus or HBO or whatever. Like, no. I think we're going to get theatrical releases of, like, Batman, Superman. I think James Gunn universe is safe for now. I think the only way that that's getting shut down is if none of the movies make money and just people are losing interest left and right. So I think it's safe for now. And actually, speaking of James Gunn, we know that Man of Tomorrow, the Superman 2025 sequel, is going to be filming soon. I believe it's at the end of April. And I apologize for going long. There just was a lot of news to talk about. But we've got big casting news. For the role of Maxima, as has been reported by Variety, she's going to be played by Adriana Arjona. Again, apologies for not being able to say names. That's just a character flaw with me. But if you might recognize her from Andor or the streaming movie Hitman. She was really good in Andor. I loved her work there. She's going to be playing Maxima. And if you don't know who Maxima is, she in the comics is a character. Basically, if you've seen the show Invincible, she's a Viltrumite, where she's an alien from a race of people that, strongest survive. Everything is about making the strongest babies possible. And she comes to Earth basically to be like, Superman, let's make a super duper baby, basically. And he's like, I'm married, no thanks. in the end, he's able to actually reform her, and she becomes a hero. It'll be interesting to see how she's used here, because we know that Brainiac's the main villain. Maybe she's kind of like the henchwoman for Brainiac, where she's like, hey, you can take the Earth, but I want soups, basically. I could see that kind of being the role that she plays in the movie, and it'll be interesting because you can kind of play off of the whole backstory that they gave Superman in the previous movie, where it's implied that the L's sent Superman to Earth to basically create a new Krypton and repopulate Krypton basically on Earth. So it'd be kind of interesting to have her come in and be like, "Hey, this is what your parents wanted," and him having to basically be like, "No, I've made my choice with humanity. I choose to be with Lois." I don't see it turning into a doofy love triangle. I think James Gunn's writing is more mature than that, and the Lois that he created for the movies is a lot more mature than that. And I think again, it's also there because we need a big heavy, because Brainiac, while you can have like a robot army that Superman can fight with him, he's not the most physically formidable. So I can definitely see them using her to be the big heavy. I know a lot of people wanted her to play Wonder Woman, and some people are thinking that she still might be Wonder Woman. I don't think Wonder Woman's going to be in this movie. I think that would be a foolish move, because you're basically making the same mistakes that Batman v Superman did. Let Wonder Woman be in her own movie, introduced in her own series or movie. Don't bring her into Superman. And again, she really wouldn't fit in here. This is very much a Superman centric story. It's all about Brainiac, and I really do suspect that we're going to have it revealed in Supergirl that he's the one that destroyed Krypton, like he sometimes does in the comics and other media. So it's going to be so Superman connected and centric that I think to bring Wonder Woman in, it'd be the same if you brought in Batman. It wouldn't make sense for the story, and it would just really feel like you're shoehorning a character in that doesn't need to be there. Let Wonder Woman get introduced in her own movie, in her own story, so she can have time to shine, and then let that actress, whoever she may be, really claim the role for her own, and especially being compared to Gal Gadot, or Gadot, excuse me. I think that's the way to go. I don't think she's going to be Wonder Woman. I don't think James Gunn would be foolish enough to make that mistake. Speaking of mistakes, again, I'm just nailing it with the transitions here. Hunt for Gollum, that Lord of the Rings movie. We finally got a full casting list of who's going to be who for this movie. And as we previously suspected, Sir Ian McKellen's going to be returning as Gandalf. Elijah Wood will be Frodo Baggins again. Lee Pace from the Hobbit trilogy will actually be returning as his role in Thranduil, which is interesting. And then Kate Winslet, who we previously mentioned had been cast, but we didn't know the role yet. She's going to be Marigold, Gollum's grandmother. She's going to be a Hobbit, which really tells me that this movie is going to be a Gollum origin story. So basically, the brief backstory that we got at the beginning of Return of the King, it's basically going to be a whole movie now, which, again, I don't see how that works. I don't know how that works, but we'll see how it plays out. We did find out who's going to be playing Aragorn. Jamie Dornan, excuse me. Golly, I cannot say names. I'm sorry. Listen, my last name is Zolnai. I struggled to say that and spell that until like the second grade, so if your name's not Smith, I apologize. But Jamie Dornan is going to be playing Aragorn. He was the lead in the 50 Shades of Grey movies and has done some bit parts here and there that I've seen. Interesting casting. This is no offense to him. I just think he's a little too much of a pretty boy for Aragorn. Like, Viggo Mortensen really nailed that, like, and again, you could do some of this is due to the makeup and costuming, but they really nailed that like rugged ranger look. But it's also like, yeah, he can be kingly and handsome when he needs to be, kind of a thing. Like there's a diamond in the rough under there, and I feel like Janie Dorn's a little too pretty. Almost like he'd be more perfect for an elf role than I think than Aragorn. Not saying he can't do the role, just looks wise. It would have been my choice. And then we also have Leo Woodall playing Halvard, another Dunedain that's going to be joining Strider on Hunt. So basically, it's almost going to be like maybe a little bit of a buddy cop adventure movie searching for Gollum while also getting Gollum's backstory. Of course, Andy Serkis' directing is going to be playing Gollum again. Like I said before, I'm not the most excited about this movie. I don't think it's needed. The cast is good. Again, I just don't know. This can't be more than an hour and a half, 2 hour movie. Like, I just do not see that. Between Gollum's backstory and the hunt for Gollum, like, it's just going to be mostly Aragorn, like, riding around. Like, maybe he fights a few goblins or something. But, again, it's just a paragraph in a book. And we get a few hints of Smeagol's grandmother, Marigold, in both the appendices and in the Hobbit book itself. So we'll probably just maybe get more backstory on Smeagol as a little Hobbit boy before he becomes Gollum. I don't know. Like, I think we'll probably see almost a recreation of the prologue from Return of the King, where he finds the ring in the river and kills his friend for it, and then it's just going to be a lot more drawn out. Maybe, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think it would be fun to maybe. I don't think they would do this. It would be kind of fun if we got like a Martin Freeman cameo of just like we see the other side of that meeting in The Hobbit where Smeagol's like killing the goblin and loses the ring and then discovers Bilbo. Like, maybe the movie could end on that, and then you have the Lord of the Rings score just swell for the credits, and then that's how it ends. That'd be kind of fun. But again, I don't see how there's enough story in this to make a future film. But at this point, I'm committed to watching it, even if I didn't have a Substack. I'm just so morbidly curious on how this is going to be that I'm going to go see it in theaters. If nothing else, the music will be great. Especially, please God, get Howard Shore back for another movie. Just any excuse to hear more of his Lord of the Rings music, please bring it back. Or if you can't get him, if he's getting up there and doesn't want to do it, get Bear McQuarrie, who did the Lord of the Rings TV show for Amazon. His music's pretty good, and while it has its own flavor, meshes well enough, I feel like, to what Howard Shore did, that I'd be okay hearing his music for this movie as well. But that's what I'd be mainly excited for at this point when it comes to this film. But decent cast. Like I said, I just don't know how you can justify this movie's existence beyond money. But we'll see when it comes out next year. It'll be filming soon in New Zealand, so we'll see. That's really all I got for today. Again, went a little long, but there was a lot of news. Next week, if there's an Avengers Doomsday trailer, you better believe that'll be the headline for that podcast. But thank you so much for listening. As for what I've been up to, I just released an article on my Substack about why I'm against live action remakes. We get to see the wonderful wig The Rock's wearing for the Moana live action remake in the thumbnail, so enjoy that in all of its nightmarish glory. Next week, I'll be doing an article on Andor, since it's going to be the 1 year anniversary since Season 2 released, and kind of what Andor's impact could be on Star Wars in the future, or what it should be. I'm excited for you guys to read that next week. As far as what I'm watching, I've been watching Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, which has been great. Highly recommend it. It feels a lot better than last season. You really feel the quality has gone up. Especially this past episode felt like a Netflix show episode. Highly recommend it. Also been watching The Pit with my wife. The finale comes out at the time of this recording this week. I'm excited to watch that, been enjoying that. And then I'm actually going to show her the Last of Us TV show, because she's never played the games or anything, and I'm excited for her to watch at least the first season. I may not show her the second season, didn't really enjoy that, and I don't think she needs to watch it. And the first season stands well on its own, so I'm excited to see how she thinks about that, especially because she's not into scary stuff, but I don't think it'll be too scary for her to enjoy. But That's all I have. As always, thank you so much. And again, if you are wanting to become a paid subscriber, just go to my Substack and there should be an upgrade icon for you to click and select. Thank you so much for your support either way. I really do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. You're the reason I'm doing this. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next week. Bye.